Bro, this is going into my vlog. We are gonna watch Call Me By Your Name. She has not even seen the trailer or the book or anything. I'm excited for her. Any comments?
This is me before watching
Call Me By Your Name.
I don't want to stay at home. So I feel that
that's when I talk about grief and how emotional I felt. And breathless and air pockets. So this title I thought of when I was going on a flight, and I actually got stuck in a air pocket, and the flight was going like this, like this.
Hi, my name is Kaushiki and welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. I mostly talk about books on this channel and sometimes music which focused on K-pop. So today we'll be talking about Call Me By Your Name. This book and the movie is pretty famous because of the actors and because of the storyline. And recently, maybe not recent because considering I am making this video in July, but Pride Month should be celebrated all the time. Talking about this book from the perspective of a person living in India, I had a lot of fun in the book club meeting. Shout out to Tangerine Book Club, and there we discussed a lot of opinions when talking about this book and where it is set in and how different our culture is in comparison and why sometimes people cannot resonate with it. So this book is exploring the story of Elio and Oliver, as most people know, and of course this video is gonna be filled with spoilers, and so if you haven't watched the movie or haven't read the book, I highly suggest it, although you might see something that makes the book and movie very different. So first of all, if we consider the book, it is very much focused on Elio's perspective on this whole scenario and how he experiences it. So it feels like we are inside of an angsty teenager's head when we actually read this book. And some people might think that since this book is about queer love story, it should, it should have an adult as the character rather than having a teenager as a character. But we need to take in the perspective of the cultural differences, because in Italy, I am sure the age of consent is 16 as in comparison to India, which is 18. So attending the book club, actually a lot of people were surprised by the fact that they hadn't seen the movie or they hadn't seen the book, and they actually saw how Elio is not technically an adult. This book was hosted as the book of the month in Tangerine Book Club in June, and it was in celebration of the Pride Month, and this is the most famous book that I'm sure a lot of readers have read, or even movie enthusiasts have known about this book in some sort of way, because this is also a movie. This movie is set in Italy. The movie has a lot of imagery that is very inviting, and it is like if you want to have a dream summer, it kind of projects in that way. The visuals are honestly insane when it comes to the movie, and it is very addictive to watch, and it just sucks you right in when you watch it. I got to know a fun fact about the director in that, because the director kind of doesn't mute out the background sounds. Like, I noticed a lot of time when they are talking, the sound of wind or the sound of like windows opening and closing is kind of coming in, and also at the same time you can hear the bus roaring past the two persons who are sitting near the I forgot the name. You say roundabout. Yeah, so they are sitting near a roundabout and you can hear the sound of a roaring bus going past them. And that was very interesting when somebody pointed it out, because after that I kept on noticing it again and again. So that is one thing that the director, I think, has it in every movie that he directs. Right off the bat, we can understand from the book and also the movie that Elio is an angsty teenager. I don't know how a lot of people are saying that he acts way too mature than his age, but if you actually read the book, the way that the monologues are kind of spaced out, you can sense that no adult thinks like this, in the way that it is angsty and bold and also confused all the time. So I think the portrayal of Timothy Chalamet as an awkward teenager is very spot on. And also, one more thing to note is that aside from awkwardness, I think there are less focus on other emotions. Like, the most notable emotion that you can see in the book and the movie is the way that he's just so awkward throughout the movie, throughout the book. Like, I can sense the love, the frustration, the anger, the sadness, the happiness, but the most prominent factor I could feel was the awkwardness. And it is very apparent if you read the book, especially when you read the monologues, especially when you see how he just copes with the situation, and how he kind of resents Oliver that he's so free in his billowy shirt. So we see in the movie and also the books that they have a routine that they follow through. In the morning they will sit by the pool, and honestly, when we see the scene in the movie, it seems like paradise, it seems like a heaven. And so even Oliver has that same process where he says this is heaven, and dubs the special spot by the pool in the morning as heaven, where Elio works on music transcripts, as far as I know, because he's really into music. He really is into piano. I don't know how to describe that feature, but he's a kid who loves to transcribe music. And Oliver sits there and sleeps sometimes, he works sometimes, but mostly it's just relaxing in the morning. But the notable thing that you see is the conversations that they have by the pool, and sometimes it's very charged in a sexual manner, sometimes it's very cold, and sometimes it's very just normal conversations. So it is like an insight into the dynamic of Elio and Oliver. Their relationship kind of develops from that point. Oh, it's raining. We see after a while that Elio kind of understands the way that he was feeling towards Oliver is not just appreciation or not just wanting to become like Oliver, because Oliver is free, he is freely showcasing his necklace that is showcasing his Jewish descent. We see how Elio understands he is not just fascinated or not just appreciating the fact that Oliver is free and representing his Jewish descent without any kind of issue and without feeling like he needs to hide it. So he's not just attracted to that aspects and not just wanting to become like Oliver, but at the same time he's also more affectionate towards him, and he feels more deeply than just appreciation. He tries to hide his emotion that he's attracted to Oliver, but at the same time he also wants Oliver to take a step towards him, because that attraction makes him want to hide that, but at the same time he wants the other person to just sense it. He's also shy whenever Oliver actually takes a step towards him. Like, there is a scene, I would say that is the first sign of Oliver giving him way to actually confess his feelings. After the tennis scene, we see a lot of different phases of their relationship where Oliver goes on to interact more with a girl around the age of Elio, which is Chiara, and he also has relationships with her, while Elio kind of copes with having a relationship with Marzia. It's not clear exactly if they have a relationship or if he's just using her, which seemed very off to me. Like, why is it that women are used as characters that you can like build storyline with? Or maybe it's just my perspective that women seemed more like they have a very futile role in the book and also the movie. But at the same time, you will see how Marzia kind of is more open towards the idea that Elio might be gay, and all the tension between Marzia and Chiara and all the other things that later lead on to Elio confessing to Oliver. Oliver says that I'm going to pretend that I never heard it. So it kind of is a setback, but at the same time, if you consider that they both are kind of into it, it isn't. After that, they go to Minette's burn, and there they kind of not directly talk about the confession, but at the same time they are towing the waters. Oliver confesses that he knew about the fact that Elio liked him for a long time, and in a sort of pity moment or consoling moment, he kisses Elio, and there's a scene where they say better now, but it seems so flat. It seems like he did it just out of pity rather than actually liking that person back, which again is weird. So Elio says that he's not sure, that he's convinced or better now, as you would say, and he tests the kiss out again. And after that, Oliver says that so far we have behaved and let's keep it that way rather than developing these feelings, and they leave from that place. A lot happens before they leave, which is again very awkward if you see the movie. It just makes me laugh because it is so obvious in the sense that he's trying to get a rise out of Oliver but failing at it miserably, and even in the book it is pretty funny and awkward. It was supposed to be like intimate scene, but it just is very flat again because Elio wants to get a rise out of Oliver, but Oliver is just deadpan in that scene and he's like, just let's go. Let's go. After the fact that Oliver kind of just rejects the idea that he might be into Elio in that way, or even if he is, he's not gonna take any kind of steps. Things remain tense between them and in their relationship. While Elio advances his relationship with Marzia, Oliver interacts with a leukemia patient. Her name is Vimini, and we see that Elio is kind of jealous why Oliver kind of sneaks out all the time to meet that person, and he assumes that Oliver is spending nights with a person that he likes. After a while, we can see that Marzia understands that Elio is using her, and she kind of says it in the sense as well that he will break her heart, and she hopes that he will not break her heart, but at the same time Elio is kind of amazed how she can be so vulnerable, at the same time she can be so bold in her choices. And after a while, Elio understands that he cannot stand the silence, and he sends the note saying so to Oliver. In response, Oliver just says grow up, and they will meet at midnight, where they have intimate relations for the first time. And Elio feels a lot of pain when going through that experience, and he wishes to stop, but at the same time he doesn't. After that whole scene, it's very muddy how the author wants to talk about it, because in the book it seems like Elio is way more disgusted by him acting out on his fantasies, while in the movie it didn't seem that much. It just seemed that he was uncomfortable, while in the book it describes in great detail how he was disgusted, utterly broken. Then we have a series of incidences that display how Marzia and Elio are getting close, and Oliver and Elio are getting close. Then Oliver and Elio head to Rome together, and there they enjoy their time spending together as a couple. And Elio kind of understands that this is the ending point of their relationship, and he starts to anticipate it. And Elio's father says to feel nothing so as to not feel anything is such a waste. He wants to grieve the love that he had with Oliver. At the same time, he's kind of insinuating. So there are a lot of connotations in the book and the movie. So there is a scene that Elio's father kind of confesses that he also had experienced a love that he had to give away. In the movie, it seems like Elio is asking his father, does mom know about this? In the sense that, does mom know about the fact that you had this kind of relationship? While in the book, it seems more like, does mom know about this, in the sense of the relation between Oliver and Elio. I think the fact that this book ended with a flash forward into 20 years where we can see that Elio has moved on to live his life as a student, and Oliver has become a professor. He has a wife and kids, and they meet sporadically, and in the sense that Oliver is not over it. We see it in the scene that Oliver is at Elio's house, but Elio is not at the house. I think I forgot exactly where he was. Oliver is choked up at the phone, and you see that Elio is also tormented by the call. We also see how Elio goes to meet Professor Oliver now, and Oliver sees him and he insists that come for dinner and meet me at the house, but Elio is insisting that it is too painful and he cannot go through with it. So that is how we end in the book, that it says in the future 20 years from now that if you sit in the taxi and you look back and you call me by your name, I will know that you feel the same. I will know that you remember everything. So they end on the note that he looks back and he calls Elio by Oliver. And it's just so romantic, at the same time so heartbreaking. And of course, it is not meant to be a forever love, that kind of story. It is just a painful, heartbreaking story. But when I went to the book club, I went through a lot of different emotions. Segment is me talking about the opinions we had in the Tangerine Book Club that I was specially touched by, or I found it very funny, or just amazing that people can think of this many things when you look at one piece of art, and how many perspectives you can find on it. So the name of the June book club meet was Queer and Corrupt, because we see that everything is corrupt and it still exists. And the fact that we demonize queer people so much in India, like we see them as untouchables, which is honestly very sad. We see them as something that is wrong, and we see them as corrupt. So that was the reflection on the Queer and Corrupt. But at the same time, the host of the book club talked about how everyone is corrupt, but it's the way that queer is like you live with that corruptness in pride. You live with the fact that you are different, you are not fitting into the society with pride. So you cannot hide the fact that you are queer, and you cannot hide the fact that everything is corrupt. The fact that sometimes when we look at queerness of people, when we see the concept of LGBTQ, it's not that digestible. So the theme was pride is not meant to be digestible. It is meant to be open. It is meant to be expressing yourself. And that is something that stuck with me. Today somebody brought up the fact that the idea of queer romance, like, just riding bicycles on the roads and people accepting your identity so easily in the society, which is not normal, is again impossible in India. So one of them said that you cannot have Rajiv Chowk romance, and it stuck with me because that was a hilarious sight to just imagine. That imagine in Rajiv Chowk you are driving around on the bikes, two people just kissing each other and holding hands. You cannot have that in India. Sadly, two queer people cannot exist in love peacefully in India. One of the negative aspects that was discussed in the book club meeting was the age gap. Again, I think it is more of a cultural context that in India, the age of consent is 18, and the idea of queer couple, first of all, is very taboo. And on top of that, you have the age gap, even though it exists in India all over, but it only exists in straight couples, that people have like an age gap of 7 to 8 years. But even then, it only exists in the framework of marriage. Like in marriage, you see a lot of couples have an age gap of 7 to 8 years. But when we see the fact that in the movie and the book that Elio is 17 while Oliver is 24, it does kind of rub you the wrong way when you imagine it. That you see a teenager who is depicted as a mature person because he's surrounded by knowledge and he is wealthy with all the facts and knowledge of the world. But at the same time, when you read the book, you understand that these feelings that he's feeling is of an immature teenager. And that is something that is hard to settle with when you look at Oliver, who has a fully developed frontal lobe and is knowing the fact that this is taboo and knowing the fact that he is unsure. It kind of felt lopsided to me. One more thing that was brought up in the book club is the beauty of love and longing, specifically in the aspect and context of queerness. So when you cannot depict the emotions that you want to, the most prominent emotion that you can feel in the queer community is the love and the longing, because you cannot exist in openness as others would. And that is where the longing comes in, the painful emotion that you feel along with the most electrifying feeling that you can have, that is love. Another aspect that was brought up in the book club was the portrayal of women in queer books and movies, and how they are more understanding, they are more open to the idea of queer identity than men. Like in the book, when we look at the character of Marcia, we see that she's more open towards the idea of Elio not being straight and loving somebody else, and she's understanding and even helps her in opening conversations along the lines of expressing your feeling. You can see Marjay as more accepting of the fact that even if he's not fulfilling the love that she wants, she understands it and she accepts it. And women are portrayed as self-sufficient and more independent than even the men in the movies. And it is also because of the fact that women face more discrimination. The thing that was brought up in the book club is that women are more supportive of the idea of queerness because they are also subjugated to the idea of discrimination and oppression. On a funny note, somebody called the fact that Call Me By Your Name, if it was made in 2025, it would be known as a situationship, and I have no words. One more thing that was brought up in context of Elio, as he's always talked about how mature he is and how talented he is and he's more knowledgeable, but the fact that we look at emotional intelligence as emotional resilience is wrong in that context, because yes, he is emotionally intelligible, but it doesn't translate directly into the resilience of his emotions. And it is portrayed in the fact that, of course, he is intelligible when it comes to IQ and EQ, but at the same time, he's not resilient enough to deal with that trauma or maybe even the heartbreak when it comes from loving someone so deeply and knowing that it will go nowhere. And one of the people that actually joined into the book club meeting talked about this and said how she couldn't deal with knowing that fact that this relationship is time bound and I cannot go past that time, or I know that it is gonna end someday in future, so I will not start anything that is in relation to something that I know has an expiry date. And it is a valid point, even though sometimes you can think it is the debate of would you like to experience this even for a short time, or would you like to save yourself from that kind of pain. And I think it will be suffice to add Elio's father's comment that it is such a waste to feel nothing just because you don't want to feel anything of that sort of pain. So that is one thing that I think is debatable when we think about it from the context of having a summer fling as this movie portrayed. When we look at the movie, we also see the dynamics of using a soundtrack to soften up the rough edges of the context of Elio and Oliver and the awkwardness we see. So let's talk a bit about the movie and how the soundtrack was used to soften up the rough patches of the movie, the way that the awkwardness was kind of hiding behind the musicality of the movie that is supported by the soundtrack of Sufjan Stevens. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that name right, but the song Mystery of Love is probably my favorite. I listen to it all the time when it's raining. And you can see how the music works in favor of displaying tenderness even in the rough moments, even in the moments that you see that Elio is obsessed with the idea of being in love with Oliver. He is obsessed and going past the point of just looking at it from perspective of anything else other than just love. And it is softened up, it is romanticized by the use of music in that way. So these are some highlights from the book club that I experienced about the movie and just some conversations that we had. And I'm again so grateful that I got to participate in such an event, and I will continue to support the book club even if I cannot do it in person, but I would like to visit them as often as possible. Not because I speak there that much, but the fact that I get to learn so many perspectives from other people. And again, if you want to check them out, they are available on Instagram, and you can most probably visit the book club meetings that they host. There is a WhatsApp group as well. So yeah, totally support Tangerine Book Club. So I took my friend to watch Call Me By Your Name for the first time, and I wanted to know the thing that made me feel so many emotions, that made me cry at 3 a.m. How would the other person feel when watching it with a crowd? So yeah, I should have put a disclaimer for her, but I didn't, and that was good. Hi guys, we just watched Call Me By Your Name, the movie, and I have read the book. She hasn't, and
मेरा फर्स्ट टाइम था.
हाँ, ये आपके आफ्टर थॉट्स ऑफ द मूवी.
भाई देखो, मूवी ओवरऑल अच्छी थी कि मतलब वहाँ पे और भी लोग थे, देवर मतलब बता रहे थे ऐसा कि बहुत कुछ था, लाइक फर्स्ट किस जब उनकी थी दैट वाज इंटेंस, सब कुछ था। पर हाँ, मूवी भाई, पहली बात तो भाई उस मूवी के एस्थेटिक्स
बहुत प्रिटी, मतलब फ्रेम बाय फ्रेम वो जो समझा रहे थे वो सब।
सीरियसली भाई। दूसरी चीज सीन्स, एस्थेटिक्स और सब कुछ वाज ऑन टॉप। लास्टली भाई, इसने मेरे को इतनी बार बोला कि भाई मैंने कॉल में बाय योर नेम देख के या पढ़ के भाई मेरे को हमेशा रोना आया है। मतलब भाई है क्या, मैंने देखी एंड में आते मैं मतलब जब उसके बाप का मोनोलॉग शुरू होता है ना, तो पहले तो मैं
तो
ऐसे
सो गई
भाई, ऐसे मेरे आँख में आंसू भरे तो मैं ऐसे हो गई। फिर एकदम से मेरी साथ वाली रोने लग गई थी। हाँ, मेरी साथ वाली रो रही थी और भाई मैं एकदम से उठी और फिर एकदम से उसका वो जो उनका न्यू ईयर का कुछ फेस्टिवल होता है ना, तो एकदम सीन वो कट होता है होने के बाद एकदम से उस बंदे को फोन आता है, एलियो को, ओलिवर को फोन आता है, पहले तो हाय हेलो होती है, फिर वो बोलते हैं कि भाई
आई एम गेटिंग एंगेज्ड एंड नो आई एम एंगेज्ड मैरिड
इस स्प्रिंग में भाई वो बंदे का जो एक्सप्रेशन चेंज होता है, उसके बाद वो फोन रख के
नहीं, वो एक्चुअली लाइन कनेक्टेड होता है, सो एक ही लाइन से तुम दूसरी तरफ भी उनने फोन पे बात कर लिया। फिर एक वो पेरेंट्स के एक्सप्रेशन जो होता है जब वो फोन रख देते हैं, वो कहते हैं कि वी लेट यू टॉक टू एलियो नाउ, तो उनका एक्सप्रेशन होता है
भाई
दैट इज लाइक, मतलब उन्हें पता है कि उनके बेटे को कितना दुख होएगा इसके बाद।
उसके बाद वो जब आके बॉनफायर के सामने रोता है ना, वो देख के मैं खुद मैं
ऐसे नहीं थे मेरे पास क्लिप है तुम्हारी।
तुमने मेरी क्लिप कब बनाई थी? सो भाई कमिंग बैक, मैंने अपनी क्लिप देखी, ऐसे आंसू मैं कहा मैं लिटरली स्टूडियो भाई मुझे भी कुछ नहीं बोल रहा, रुक जाओ, मुझे भी कुछ नहीं बोल रहा भाई।
आई फाइनल थॉट्स, मेरे को ये मूवी बहुत पसंद है, बट मैं जानबूझ के नहीं देखती हूँ बिकॉज इट इज़ द इनएविटेबल सैडनेस ऑफ दिस स्टोरी, क्योंकि पता है कि दुख ही है इसमें। एंड यू नो लाइक कुछ लोग एक्सेप्ट कर लेते हैं दैट सैडनेस इन देयर, लाइक कि हाँ मतलब वी कैन लिव विद दिस, वी विल हैव दिस एक्सपीरियंस अलॉन्ग विद द सैडनेस। मेरे से नहीं होता। Along with that, we also discussed some of the movie recs. If you like Call Me By Your Name, you can watch movies like Joyland, the movie that is Brokeback Mountain, The Wedding Banquet, The Policeman, and you can see throughout these movies that it's all about queer longing and how queer love story is more about longing than fulfillment, because it's not because of the shame that feel, but because the society doesn't let them exist in peace. And with that, I would just like to say, if you enjoyed watching this video, please like, share and subscribe. I hope that the next book that I can recap is the Hunger Games series, because I finished reading this book recently. I finished it through an audiobook and I was honestly obsessed with it. I don't know why I never read it in school, but honestly, this is one of the books that made me just fall head first. Like, I wanted to read the second book instantly, but I am holding out because I want to record my experience for this. First, I will finish the trilogy of the Hunger Games, then I'm gonna discover the fourth and fifth book. The fifth book that has come out this year and everyone has been raving about it. I'm so glad I picked it up because I thought that A Coat of Thorns and Roses was the best book in terms of portraying a female character as a protagonist and just having her as something more than just a damsel in distress. But I think I forgot. I think I should have read these kinds of books first. But yeah, I'm grateful that I get to experience this kind of pain and beauty as well. So I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching the video until now. Please like, share and subscribe. Bye.